Hi, thank you so much for joining me for today's process video, and today I'm using the 49 Market Summer Porch collection. I've just grabbed one paper from the papers in this collection, and I'm using the ephemera pack for the rest of the bits, along with my 49 Market Serenity. The blues in that collection work really nicely with the blues in the Summer Porch, and I am documenting a photo of Amelia on our recent trip to Jersey. I just love this picture of her. She looks so carefree and happy. So I wanted to scrap it. We were at a lovely restaurant on the beach called the Oyster Box, and so I wanted to kind of get that beach feel into the photo. So that's why I wanted to use this wood background. So I'm just going through the Serenity pieces here, and along with the Summer Porch pieces, to create a mat behind my photo. And you can see to the left there I've pulled a few bits out of the Summer Porch ephemera pack because I want to add a load of circles to this collection, this layout. So first of all, I'm just going to create some mats behind the photo, and then I'm going to go in with the circles and embellish all around the photo. So using this 6x8 paper from the Serenity collection to create another layer. Plenty of layers behind this photo, and I just wanted to pull in the blues and off-whites, and that's what I'll be focusing on. That navy just felt a little bit too dark. So this piece that I've just slotted in there is from, if you watch my previous video, I did a layout with loads and loads of strips of paper, and I've still got those to one side on my desk, so I'm trying to use a few more of those on this layout. So I'm just tearing that one in half so that I can add a bit to the top and a bit to the bottom, so it looks like it's one continual piece. And then I am going to distress all the edges on this layout to get a really nice texture going. So just distressing as I go and then sticking all these pieces down, and then I can get on with the circles in due course. Just trying to make sure that everything's straight, because I've got those straight horizontal lines on the wood paper. I want to make sure that I don't go off kilter. But I think it's okay. Looking at the finished layout, I think I didn't do too badly. So nearly there with these layering bits. And then I can go in with the circles. And as I say, I've pulled some of the circular elements out from the ephemera pack, but I do use 2 of my punches to create a lot more. And the circles that I've punched out are 2 inches and 1¼ inches. I just use my EK Success punches to do that. So I just wanted to get that stuck down before I started. And that's that mat nicely done. So I'm going to start adding the circles. I do eventually realise that I really need to stick the mat down before I carry on. And because the circles are fairly close in colour to the background, I wanted to give them a bit of prominence. So I'm just going around with the black pen and adding a couple of wobbly, very wobbly actually, circles around the edge. And then I'm going to distress the edges before sticking them down. You'll watch as I go through the video. I do find a slightly better method of doing that. I normally find it much easier to draw a circle freehand and then cut it out. But because I wanted to use punches, I knew my circles wouldn't be the right size. So I've had to go in and draw the lines after the effect. So you can see there, I'm trying to twist the circle around and draw my double line. That's my second attempt. The first attempt was just little bits of the circle all the way around. And you can see I'm just going to layer these up. The papers are very thick, so I don't really need to add any foam to this layout because they're going to be dimensional anyway as they layer against one another. And I'm just adding glue in the middle of the circle really so that the edges sit freely on the page. So these ones are all 1¼ and then that bigger one there is a 2-inch circle. And this is a great way for using up scraps. If you want a monochromatic layout, a bit like I'm doing, just pull out all of your scraps of a certain colour and they'll blend really nicely together doing this sort of a layout. So using my Tim Holtz edge distresser, on one of the circles I do try using my fingernails, but these papers are so very thick, it actually took longer using my fingernails than just using the edge distresser. So I built that area up a little bit and then realised I wanted to bring in one of the ephemera pieces. So this is one of the ephemera bits from Summer Porch, and I've just cut it in half so I can use half there and then half elsewhere on the layout. So it's at this point I realised I really do need to stick this down if I want to carry on layering up those circles. So there we go, just double checking with my T-square ruler that the photo's straight, and then I can carry on. So I pulled out this circular element there, and it says, in the Book of Life, summer is the chapter we never want to end. And I just thought that was a really nice sentiment, so I'm going to add that. It doesn't stay at the bottom there, but I consider adding it down there. I've also pulled out these wordy bits from the ephemera pack. One says hello and one says summertime, so I think that's going to be my title. It's one of those photos where it evokes a memory when I look at it, but there's not really a lot to say other than my daughter looks beautiful. So I don't need to add loads of journaling to this. So I'm letting the sentiments in the ephemera pack do the talking on this one. And then I just add where we were at the bottom. So continuing with this layering, it takes a little trial and error sometimes just to see where I want these circles to sit, because I don't want to overload it. And looking at the layout, I think I have ever so slightly, but it's fine. But I don't want to not add enough either, so it's getting that balance. And I didn't quite punch out enough circles, so you will see towards the end of the video that I do have to punch a couple more. And I think at the bottom here, I do get bored and think, do I really need to add the lines? So I stick a couple of these down without adding the black lines around, but I do end up going back and adding them in once they're stuck down, because it just looks a little bit too plain and sort of blends into the background, just that little bit too much. So this is where I decide to move that sentiment circle, and it goes up in that top right hand corner. It's much better up there. The shape, the overall shape at the end is much better with it sitting up there. So you can see I'm sort of moving around, changing which areas I'm building the circles in, just trying to build up that shape. So happy with that one up there. And then I remember I've got some more semicircles with sentiments on. This one says this is, sorry about that, I had to take a phone call. This one says this is summer. And so that's going to go at the top there. And there is another one that I add shortly that says more of this. But for now, this piece is a die cut piece using one of the Hey Little Magpie dies. It's a gorgeous hexagon, like a mesh netting. So I've just torn a little bit off to add to the top here. I've decided to add one of the blue ephemera pieces behind it just to make it stand out a little bit more, and then I'm going to add another piece diagonally down on the left hand side, which is going to sit behind that Hello Summertime title down there. It's just like a piece to a holding piece to add the title to. So there we go. So I've just pulled those apart. It's such, when it's cut out, and I've just cut it from scrap white cardstock, it's so pliable and malleable that you can just tear little bits off and it doesn't look odd. And just add that in there. And I think the hexagons work nicely with the circles as well. So just adding some dots of glue to the back there so I can add that. I'm having to make sure that I add the lid and turn my glue upside down each time because it's so very nearly finished, but waste not, want not, you know. I want to get every last drop out before I open a new bottle. So I'm just adding my title here, starting with the hello. I will go back in and add a couple of foam pads underneath the H and the E, which are hanging over the edge. And then this summertime piece I stick down, and I don't really want the foam pads to give a different height to the title piece, so I end up cutting a few slivers of paper to match the number of layers under the photo so that it stands up at the same height. And so just gluing 3 of those together, and then I'll pop that underneath that summertime title, and that works really nicely to hold that up and in place. Just using my ATG to get it stuck down. Nearly there, it's a bit fiddly, but it's worth the effort. There we go, last bit of ATG, and then I can glue it down properly. So you can see the shape is starting to come together on this layout. Still a few bits to add. That's that other semicircle that I'd cut previously, so I decided to add that to the top, just so that the shape tapers off towards the top. And then I want to add a few more to the right hand side here. So again, doodling my lines, and you can see I've got a much better technique now. Rather than spinning the circle round, if I just hold it in place, I can doodle around it. And then distressing those edges, bit of ATG, and get it stuck down. Just adding a bit more glue to make sure that's down. And this is that other semicircular piece that I was talking about that says more of this. I do end up putting that at the top of the page next to the This is Summer in due course. So here I am punching a few more circles. Once again, distressing the edges. Doodling round. Sometimes I doodle then distress, sometimes I distress then doodle. There we go. So another one at the top there. That's where I see that I can add that. And I've also got this tab, of course, to add my date to. So I'm just going to overlap that on top of the tab that was on that. It was like a file folder piece from the ephemera pack. So that works nicely as a layer there. And then a word strip that says sunshine on my mind. Almost there now, a couple more circles to go, and then a little bit more embellishing with other elements. This is the point where I realise that I do need to doodle the lines around that bottom circle. So again, using my 1 1/4 inch circle punch, but just use what you have to hand if you want to recreate this layout. If it's a 1 inch punch, I'd use that, and probably you only need 2 different sizes. That's all I've used on my layout. There we go, another circle, another one. I just keep going, don't I? Just wanted something else in this bottom left-hand corner, just to tie everything together. Again, doodling the bit that's showing. And at this point I decide that I just want to add something else to that title, and I find a little chipboard butterfly, and I think that'll work nicely. So I'm just going to add that there on top of that netting, I suppose you could call it, the hexagon piece that I die cut. And then I'm going to doodle lines around the page and add a little bit of faux stitching to those lines, just to frame everything and make it all come together. So just adding some zigzags in 4 places around the page. And then I need to add my date to that tab. So I'll come in with my roller date stamp and just add that. And then where we were, which is just the oyster box jersey, that's the only information that I need to put on this page. There'll be plenty of layouts from this trip with the information on. And then finally I'm just going to add some gold splatters just to bring that sunshine into the page. So using my gold watercolour and a small brush to get small splatters. And that's it done. I hope I've provided you with some inspiration. Thank you so much for joining me. Do ask if you have any questions. I'll see you again soon. Bye.